Yukai Hi, I'm Tara. My pronouns are she, him, and welcome to my channel, a welcoming and inclusive place where bigots can subject themselves to re-education. In today's episode, we're going to be taking a nosedive through the history books as we learn about transphobia through the ages. So let's get to it. Transphobia has been prevalent throughout human societies ever since the discovery of pronouns, dating all the way back to the invention of the Phoenician alphabet.
Ancient religious texts, subsequently destroyed by the religious wars of the medieval period, documented waves of plagues and pestilence, often followed by waves of misgendering, which had devastating consequences for trans people who, as modern medicine now knows, vanish into thin air when this happens. Attempts to deny trans people's existence accelerated after the creation of the sex binary by eugenicist Francis Galton in the late 1800s. The concept of men and women didn't exist until this happened.
More recently, white supremacists have attempted to erase trans people from the history books, even well into the 20th century.
Nowadays, you won't be taught in school that it was actually a black trans woman who removed the first brick of the Berlin Wall in 1989, or that Queen Elizabeth I's now famous declaration that she was married to her country was actually her attempt to come out as a non-binary polyamorous pansexual. And that's saying nothing of modern historians' shameful attempts to deny the centuries-long fight trans people have had with prejudiced clinicians, as trans activists demanded the invention and distribution of gonadotrophin-releasing hormone agonists to halt their puberty, yet returned empty-handed because, unfortunately, modern medicine hadn't been invented yet.
While Western cultures attempt to come to terms with this shameful history, which famously culminated in the Nazis destroying the world's first gender clinic, Western societies still haven't managed to achieve broader acceptance of trans and particularly trans species identities.
Trans species identities have existed for millennia and are very well documented in many historical texts. See here an example from Iran in the 16th century of a fish identifying as a cat, and here an example from Bruges of a rooster identifying as a snail from the 15th century. While it's well established through basic biology that trans-species identities stem in part from the common DNA animals have with one another, it's thought that the legends of centaurs and unicorns in common folklore sprung out of trans-species animals, with centaurs being horses who identify as humans, and unicorns horses identifying as rhinoceroses.
The 19th century erasure of trans species identities would thankfully come to an end with the advent of the Disney Corporation in the 1900s, which went a long way to educating the masses into how animals can identify as people.
Many Disney movies have animals that can talk, which has gone a long way to achieving broader acceptance, and shows that these characters are in fact animals with a human brain and vocal cords. Trans-species representation in the last few decades isn't always representative of the real trans-species experience, however. The character of Mushu, a talking dragon in the 1990s animated film Mulan, was inaccurate, as science proves it's impossible for humans to identify as mythical creatures, and vice versa. The only mythical creature humans can identify as are dinosaurs.
Which of course brings us to the present day. UK Labour MP David Lammy's ignorant comments to the Labour Party conference, where he labelled many feminists as dinosaurs, were of course species phobic and actively discriminate against any feminists who may indeed identify as dinosaurs.
Hang on,
And
you said,
today,
just to be clear, you
yes,
said
can I just finish the point?
Well, no,
Today,
because I want to be clear. This is what you said. You said there are some dinosaurs on the right, and also those dinosaurs exist in our own party who want to hoard rights. Were you talking about women in your party?
called those people, some people being anti-trans,
In fact, many UK feminists have taken to wearing dinosaur suits in public since then, presumably an act of defiance against Lammy's intense prejudice against their species identity.
With the advent of the internet has come new, unique challenges for people with trans identities.
Misgendering can now happen across continents, so every person faces the very real risk of being erased from a distance, something that couldn't happen in previous centuries. The invention of emojis allows people to commit digital catface, a hate crime I personally experience almost every day. The latest Cats film, far from the celebration of cat-related identities of the original musical, is a form of cultural apartheid that would simply not have been possible without CGI.
But the internet has also brought together people of all trans identities and created new, rich subcultures that celebrate our difference. With each new pride flag, we find meaning. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned to my channel, where in the next episode, I'll be discussing how gravity is fatphobic.
Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, give it a like, subscribe, and turn the bell on to get this channel's latest alerts. And remember, capitalism is evil, so please give me money. Consider donating to me via the links in the description. Help me as I wage a valiant solo battle against not having a house of my own amid fierce opposition.